Hello and welcome back to Advanced Open Hwoarang Lessons. This is where we're going to cover Hwoarang in depth. This is the stuff that wasn't covered in Open Hwoarang Lessons. And today's lesson is going to be about Flamingo. That's right. That's both left Flamingo, the one you're seeing right now on screen, and right Flamingo. And it's not going to be about how to continue pressure by pressing buttons. It's going to be about how to continue pressure by not pressing a button. How's that even possible? You'll see in just a bit. So what do I mean by being able to continue pressure by not pressing a button? So typically when you think about Hwoarang, as soon as you enter Flamingo from anything, so let's say for example you're going from 1, 2, 3 into left Flamingo or 1, 2, 4 into right Flamingo, you're gonna press a button, right? And your best option there is going for the highs, which is LFS1 and RFS2. As you can see on screen, you're +5 on block, so you have a +5 advantage, and there's not much your opponent can do at that point. So if you are in left Flamingo, you typically loop that into the LFF forward 1+2 to get a counter hit launch, and then if you're in RFF, hopefully your opponent doesn't step, and you do RFF DF4 to lock them in. If you get them locked in, that's another +7, and then you can loop that to anything else, and then so on and so forth. You keep stringing like this, and your opponent's gonna have a hard time getting out. What if I told you, as I teased earlier, that you don't have to do that? What if you could just do 1, 2, and then just jab, and then that's it? Or 1, 2, let the foot go down, and let it stay down, and don't do anything else. Because your opponent is already expecting you to press a button. That's the expectation they have when you're playing Hwoarang. So you can check the reaction, right? So you do 1, 2, 3, and then you just let it down. Now, of course, you are open for a window. It's like a half-second window of when you're open to block. So I'm going to record Hwoarang here doing 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to attempt to block like that. You saw he didn't move back in Flamingo, because if you get it wrong, you're going to move back in Flamingo like this. So you can see that was the exact windows for Hwoarang to block. 1, 2, 3. If I press jab immediately, Hwoarang gets hit. If I wait a full second, he blocks. See, that's a big deal. And your opponent's always going to have that moment's hesitation to interrupt Hwoarang the moment he's in either left or right. It works for both stances. I'm just showing it on left right now, so that you know how long you are safe. Also, it gets very difficult to tell the difference between LFS1 and a regular jab. So I'm going to do 3 kinds of timing here against Hwoarang. I'm gonna turn off frame data, by the way. That way you can't see it. And you'll tell me, I guess in the comments below, or in chat if you're in the live stream, whether that was actually LFS1, which is +5 on block, or that was a regular jab. Because they look exactly the same, right? You don't know. And since I'm going to be delaying it, it's going to be harder to tell whether that came from Flamingo or not. Now remember, this is the key point that I mentioned earlier when Hwoarang could block. It's a half-second. So keep that in mind when trying to identify whether it's LFS1 or LFF1. So I'm going to do it the first time here. 1, 2, 3. What was that? I don't know. Drop it below. We're going to do the second one. 1, 2, 3. What was that one? Don't know. Go in. Last one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that was probably a little bit too obvious. So you should probably be able to get the last one, but for the first 2, drop your guess, or like for all 3, see if you got it right. So the first one that I did, that was clearly LFS1. That was LFS1. I'm gonna bring up the frame data right now. Exact same timing. That was LFS1 +5. That felt like a half-second, didn't it? But it wasn't. And I go for the second one. Oh, that was really a half-second delay. That's exactly the same window as when you can block in Flamingo. That was +5 again. And of course, for the last one, that was too obvious. You're +1. But if your opponent doesn't recognize that, and if you don't recognize that as the Hwoarang, you won't know whether you're actually at a frame advantage, a big frame advantage, or a small frame advantage. The same thing applies if you do it from RFS. So you'll either end up with a +2 jab from RFF, or you'll end up with a +5 jab in RFS. And this applies to other stuff. So you can also do like a DF1, because the mids are in both Flamingo leave much to be desired, right? They leave much to be desired. Like if you don't want to do the LFS2 or RFS 1, you could do your DF1 plus 2 in left Flamingo by waiting for that foot to go down. Just like that. That looked really natural, didn't it? You can also do it with DF1. You can also do it with F1 plus 2. Like, the foot was still kind of up, right? But your opponent ain't gonna know that. And if you do it in RFF, ooh, that's spicy. That's spicy. I like that. I love doing this a lot. Like, most especially when you have your opponent at the wall and you're pressuring them. This applies also, like, it's not just for 1, 2, 4, by the way. It's all the moves that transition to both left and right Flamingo. So if I do it off down 3, 4, of course, the timing is different, right? It's not exactly the same timing. Eventually, you'll have to figure it out. You go into the lab. I believe this one is a little bit more late on the timing for down 3, 4. There, yeah, it has to be more late. I'm more used to the 1, 2, 4 and 1, 2, 3 because I use that more when I'm putting the foot down. Because for other stuff like that, as you can see with down 3, 4, it takes a long time before his foot goes down. LFS 3, 4, it also takes a long time for the foot to go down. That one's similar to the jab, including up 3. I believe is up back 3, 4 the same. Of course, you're not going to be pressing this on block, but if you catch your opponent sleeping, go ahead. This one, similar. That one's also similar. So it's only like the down 3, 4 and LFS 3, 4 you got to worry about. Of course, if there are others, just let me know in the comments. This was obviously just off the top of my head, right? So you have a plethora of options now. So your Flamingo pressure isn't limited to the Flamingo buttons that you have, which is like LFS 1, LFS 2, LFS forward 3, LFS 3 forward, so on and so forth. Like you have DF1 3 now. You have DF1 plus 2. You have LFF down 3, 4. If you didn't want to do, I don't know, LFS down 3, 4. See, there's also a slight difference in that because LFS down 3, 4 is 16 frames while the regular down 3, 4 is 17 frames. And of course, LFS down 3, 4 hits grounded and hits lower compared to LFF down 3, 4. But if you wanted another low that wasn't down 3, 4 or LFS down back 4, you now have the option to like do down back 4. And then you can transition to right Flamingo. Then you can let that foot go down and then you can do RFF again. Let that foot go down. Then down 3, 4, RFS 2. Then 2, 4, let it maybe let the foot go down or do the RFS axe kick, and then be on your way, mix and match it, right? I mean, there's a lot you can do with putting the foot down. There's many options. Feel free to explore it on the other moves as well, not just the 1, 2, 3 and the 1, 2, 4. I just love using it in the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4 most because that's when your opponent's really guessing a lot, and this is where a lot of the challenging happens because again, it's only +3 on block. So I love getting my reactions there, but you can do it on the rest. The main con again of putting the foot down is that you are vulnerable. Remember that you are vulnerable for a half second. So I showed you how long it would take to like block, right? And that's realistic, like when someone would attempt to like think about whether a button's coming out in Flamingo or not. So we'll record this option and I'll mix it with like the foot going down, right? That's RFS F4. That's a fast high. You can't really challenge that. If RFS 2, or is it RFF2? And then RFS DF4. Now, obviously, if your opponent just jabs immediately right after this, they will beat 2 options. But they will only lose to, what do you call this? RFS F4. So once they get hit by that, that's when they're going to stop, right? So like, okay, so that's when they're going to start down jabbing. And at that point, that's where you're supposed to RFS up forward 4. And then once you hit them with that, they're gonna hold back again. So they're holding back even more at that point. So they're like, okay, what am I supposed to do? See, that was RFS2. That wasn't, what do you call this? RFS2. So it's a double-edged sword wherein if you're able to make your opponent second guess a lot, they have this like too many options for them to cover. And then if you're unable to make your opponent guess, you cannot put the foot down. I repeat, you cannot put this foot down if you cannot make your opponent second guess. It only works if your opponent second guesses. Okay? That's all I have for this advanced lesson. Again, I've been Frontier. And that's been the cheese for today. Again, as always, thank you for watching. And feel free to click over there, I don't know, on the other side of the screen for the next advanced Open Hwoarang lesson.